Hello children, it's Friday the 22nd of January and today we're going to find out how to solve some time problems. And there are three characters on the board here that I would like you to meet. Now you may recognise these characters from the Mr. Men series of books. We've got Mr. Lazy, this is Mr. Lazy. Mr. Slow, here he is, look, with his lovely white moustache. We've got Mr. Rush. And these three characters are all going to help us to solve some problems. Because they've all got problems themselves and they need us to help solve them. So let's have a little think about these characters. Now Mr. Rush, I think you might know what the word rush means, but he's always in a hurry. He always wants to get to places quickly, perhaps before everybody else. He wants to beat everybody else. He's always in a rush. And the opposite of Mr. Rush is this character in the middle here, Mr. Slow. I don't think he could go anywhere in a hurry. He's the opposite of Mr. Rush. He's super slow. I wonder if it makes him late. Mr. Lazy, he's a bit like Mr. Slow. He's a bit slow to start. Mr. Lazy isn't fast when he needs to do things. So I wonder if you can have a little think. Which two of our characters might be late or later than they should be, and which one of our characters might be early or earlier than he should be? So let's have a think about our Mr. Rush over here. Mr. Rush loves a party, and just underneath him you can see that I've cut out one of the time problems that were attached at the bottom of our planning. Now there's lots of words on the problems, so it is absolutely fine for your grown-up to read the problem to you and with you. Let's read the problem together and let's look at the clues. So Mr. Rush had to be at the party at 5 o'clock. Right, so I'm going to come over to my big yellow clock and I'm going to make 5 o'clock on my clock. So I'm just checking 5 o'clock. Yes, big minute hand pointing at the 12, little hour hand pointing at the 5 o'clock. But in fact, Mr. Rush was 1 hour early. So he didn't get to the party at 5 o'clock. Can you have a look at the clock and tell me which number comes before 5? So have a look at the clock face, which number comes before 5? Mr. Rush was 1 hour early, so we've got to take this minute hand all the way back around the clock. It's going in a backwards direction, it's going anti-clockwise. Look, it's on number 4. Mr. Rush got to the party at 4 o'clock. He was 1 hour early. So let's do that again. So Mr. Rush was invited to a party and the party started at 5 o'clock. But Mr. Rush arrived 1 hour before. So the hour before 5 o'clock, look, is 4 o'clock. So our big minute hand has got to travel anti-clockwise, it's got to travel backwards all the way round to the 12. 4 o'clock was the time he arrived. So what I'm going to do with my pen is just at the bottom of the problem, I'm going to write 4 o'clock. And that's the time Mr. Rush arrived at the party. Now, Mr. Slow, he's got the opposite problem. And our problem says Mr. Slow had to be at school at 10 o'clock. He was 1 hour late. Oh dear, Mr. Slow, it's not good to be late for school. What time did he get to school? Let's read the problem again, and you can read it with your grown-up. Mr. Slow had to be at school at 10 o'clock. Right, that's some information there in the problem. I might even underline that because that's one of the clues as to what I'm going to do. Okay, so I might even make that time on my big yellow clock. So 10 o'clock, so I've got a long way to travel. Let's try happening. Okay, 10 o'clock. Let me just double check. Yeah, the little hand's pointing at the 10, the big hand's pointing at the 12, but he was 1 hour late. 1 hour. So let's have a little think. So to make 1 hour, this blue hand's got to travel all the way around the clock face and back up to the 12. It's got to travel 60 minutes all the way around the outside. Let's take it all the way around past the 6. 1 hour later means that Mr. Slow got to school at 11 o'clock. Mr. Slow, that's too late. That's after playtime, isn't it, children? Let's put 11 o'clock on our problem at the bottom. So they've definitely got opposite problems. Now, Mr. Lazy's over here on the left, look. He had to catch a bus at 2:30. Well, I think that might be a clue. In fact, children, you might notice as well when you have the problems in front of you that some of the clues are in bold. So they're a darker purple. I don't know if you can see that from where you're looking now, but when you have it in front of you, you can see that some of the clues are bolder, so they're a bit darker than the rest of the writing. So if you focus very much on those, 2:30. So let me make that time on my clock. So I've got to 2:30, so just bear with me children while I do that. Okay. Right, let me just check. So it's a 2:30 time. So the hand has got to travel halfway around the clock. Yes, that's halfway around. It's pointing at the 6. 2:30. So halfway after 2. Yes, the little hand's pointing there. 2:30. It says though, he got to the bus stop 1 hour later. So the time is 2:30 and he got there 1 hour later. What time did he get there? So in order to show 1 hour, my blue hand has got to travel the whole way around the clock again. Do you remember, children, when it's 1 hour, it travels all the way around the clock. So here it goes, all the way around. It's going to go all the way back to where it started. There it is. The blue hand is pointing down at the 6. The short hand is halfway after 3. In fact, Mr. Lazy got to the bus stop at 3:30. So I'm going to write that on at the bottom of my problem. Let me put my clock down. I do find it useful to keep my paper still with my other hand. 3:30. And we have solved some problems. The problems of Mr. Lazy, Mr. Slow and Mr. Rush. So there are lots of different ones, children. Some of them are trickier than others. So just like Mrs. Fussy, if you just wanted to choose 3 with your grown-up, that's absolutely fine. If you want to have a go at some more, that's also okay. Okay, so happy problem solving. Okay, children, bye for now.